Welcome back to I Did This Instead of Killing Myself, everyone. A stand-up comedy podcast based in Greenville, South Carolina. It's the week of October 31st, 2022, which I guess today is technically Halloween. We did our episode last week, so didn't do anything that festive, but it's cool. Hope you like my new headphones. I don't know. I think they kind of look weird, and it's weird I can hear myself, but it's supposed to improve audio quality. So I can hear myself loud and clear as I'm talking, which makes it hard to focus. But anyway, they're supposed to be good headphones, though. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening. And also, special thank you. We had, I'm in a really awesome mood. We had some great shows on Friday and Saturday at the Comedy Zone. Not an MC. That was the show with Jazz Gill, Jalen Orr, Dante Anderson, Gigi LaFleur, Edward. I forget his last name. He was the host. He was incredible. And I was on the show too. And it was so fun. Oh, it was so cool to see, not newer, but like comics on the weekend at the Comedy Zone, like actually featuring and having a great time. And the audiences were so fun. So that was great. So thank you if you came to that. And thanks to Brandon Rainwater for booking all of us. It was awesome. So great guest this week. Great week of comedy. Our guest today, Jake Manning. Jake is a professional wrestler, not just a comic, pro wrestler. He's been in pro wrestling for 20 years, basically. He's been a comic for the last 7. He said he feels like a 65-year-old. And just to show you, before I continue his bio, what this guy does in the ring, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip. Very short clip. This is Jake Manning kicking some dude's ass, I think. Oh, okay. Dude, check that out, man. I got nice up close and personal there. That's Jake Manning in the ring. So avid pro wrestling guy. He both works on the business side of professional wrestling and also wrestles himself. Avid fan his whole life. He has a podcast called the 10 Bell Pod, which season 3 is coming up. He also does a lot online with trading cards, Pokemon, athletic cards, selling stuff on eBay. He's a hustler, kind of like Gary Vee, I guess, except probably not. I bet he hates Gary Vee. I don't know that came up in the interview. But anyway, today we talked about pro wrestling. He explains it to me like I'm an idiot because I am an idiot. I don't know a lot about it, but got into that, talked about the interplay of comedy and pro wrestling, and a lot of other stuff too. I think you'll enjoy the interview. Jake's great. Check him out. But before we get into the interview, though, here's what's going on this week in local comedy, the week of October 31st, 2022. Monday, tonight, we have Coffee Underground at 7 o'clock, hosted by No Expectations Comedy. Get there at 6:30 or much earlier to sign up. Tuesday, we have the Radio Room here in Greenville at 8 o'clock, hosted by Bill Reiner, Jeff Thompson, or myself. 8 o'clock show. Show up, sign up. Also on Tuesday, we have the Art Bar hosted by Patrick Fowler. That's in Columbia. 8:30 start. Also in Asheville on Tuesday, we have The Odd hosted by James Harrod, 9 o'clock show. On Wednesday, we have the VFW mic here in Greenville, hosted by Tom Emmons, a.k.a. Swamp Rabbit Comedy. 6:30 show, comedian sign up at 6. That's at the VFW Post 9273 in Piedmont. Also on Wednesday, we have the Disclaimer open mic at the Asheville Music Hall. That's an 8 o'clock show, hosted by Carrie Goff. On Thursday, we have Jokes Out Loud at the Comedy Zone, 8 o'clock show, hosted by Brandon Rainwater. Sign up on that is 5 o'clock every Sunday at the Jokes Out Loud Facebook page. On Friday, we have Habiba's All Jokes Aside, hosted by Dante Anderson. That show starts at 9. And this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have Don D.C. Curry at the Comedy Zone. 2 shows on Friday at 6 and 9, 2 shows on Saturday at 6 and 9, and 1 show on Sunday at 6 o'clock. Tickets available at greenvillecomedyzone.com. All right, that's it for local comedy. I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope you enjoy my interview with Jake Manning. Here it is. All right, Jake Manning.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome for having me. I appreciate you have a video element of this whole setup.
Dude.
This is
I got you all framed up.
This is very
good.
similar to what and I appreciate you having me on, but also at the same time too, hopefully this is a favor to you because I too used to run a audio podcast.
Did you?
I did. I did 100 episodes.
Oh wow.
Actually, I've done more. I've done multiple podcasts.
Okay.
And I have one now. 10 Bell Pod. Season 3 is coming
What is
up
it
very
called?
soon. 10 Bell Pod.
10 Bell
Pod.
10 Bell.
Yeah, 10 Bell Podcast. As in, the current one that I have right now is 10 Bell Pod. Season 3 is coming up very soon.
10 Bell. That's like a
10
wrestling.
like a 10 bell salute. When a wrestler dies, you give them a 10 bell salute.
Thank you for explaining this to me. I'm an idiot. I don't know any of that. So
I know.
So when a
I'm
wrestler
gonna have to hold
dies,
your hand. I'm gonna have to hold your
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to hold your
So
hand
that-
through
so
the
that's
entire
like-
thing. So I like how
I'm
you.
not-
I like your boundaries. I like your boundaries. Let
I
me
didn't
hold
hold back, did I?
No, you didn't hold bad, but you
I
kept
didn't
a
hold
clenched
back.
fist when I'm like, let me hold your hand
I used-
through this whole thing. Let me hold your hand, walk you through a good podcast.
I think I used to be homophobic in like middle school because that's what all the kids
Okay.
were. Or not. I don't think I was knowingly that way, but it was just like, I'm not going to hold hands with.
Every
'cause you- 'cause you-
adolescent's that
every-
way.
every
And then you get
adolescent was
older
like
and
that.
it doesn't make a difference. So.
Yeah. So now, I don't mind holding hands. I
Well,
mean,
clearly
I
not.
don't-
Clearly not. Your idea of holding hands is clenched fists. Clenched fists.
Oh, we're talking about-
Sign of aggression.
And it just,
Sign of aggression.
we're talking about manly stuff. We're talking about a fallen wrestler in battle. So, okay, so that's a wrestler dies. So
Yeah.
it's not like.
So we cover like their life, their career, and we talk about a lot of wrestlers that kind of get lost in history.
Okay.
And through my years of being in professional wrestling for 19 years,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of individuals I don't at least have a story about.
Okay.
A story as in I've met this person, or I've wrestled this person,
Very
or
cool.
I've dealt with this person, or I've talked to this person,
Yeah.
or I had a weird interaction in a bathroom.
I
Yeah,
love
whatever.
that. So these are cool anecdotal stories that are like unique to you and also unique to these wrestlers who otherwise probably nobody would hear about.
Some of them you would hear about, some of you wouldn't. Some of them,
Well-
you're like, hey, I've never given too much more thought to them, but wow,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting story.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really interesting
Dude,
career.
I love stuff like that.
So that's the current one right now.
Okay, so that's on season 3.
Season 3.
But that's cool, man. I love those stories of, unique individuals that, I mean, I don't know. Everybody knows everything about celebrities now, but I do think everybody has a unique story. And that's kind of, with a comedy podcast that's local, the fact that nobody knows who any of these people are.
Exactly.
But everybody's interesting. Everybody's got great backgrounds and they're all so different.
Exactly.
So-
And my podcast that I had was called Stranger in a Southern Land because I did.
That was the 100 episode one?
Yes, that was 100 episode one.
Stranger
in a Southern Land.
Okay.
That one was basically just people doing cool stuff in the Southeast. So it was
Okay.
local, regional, and it wasn't pertaining just to comedy, but I did interview a lot of comics, very good comics. Too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also pro wrestlers, but also people who work at breweries. I talked with a neuroscientist.
Very cool.
A guy who is very big into Asperger's. And revolutionizing a lot of thought process and therapies for dealing with people with Asperger's. And then,
Very
of course,
cool. So you closed the book on that after 100 episodes?
because as you probably know, releasing a weekly podcast, especially video, is
Yeah, bro. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and I had that one on top of a comedy wrestling one on top of it. So I
At the
released
same time?
At the same time.
Wow.
Now the comedy wrestling one I released every other week.
Okay.
But there were weeks like I just saw a picture of my calendar. Facebook does like, hey, this was happening 7 years ago.
Flashback, yeah.
They had a calendar of my podcast schedule with my interviews with when they were released.
Yeah.
And the entire dry erase calendar was full of
Yeah.
text. Because I was like, you're editing on this day, you're releasing on this
For
day,
sure,
you're
man.
interviewing on this day.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot of work.
It was.
I
It
hope
was a lot
these
of work.
people appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I
I appreciate it.
I
I got nothing better
I
to do.
barely appreciate this one because I'm on it. So I barely appreciate it.
No, it's fine. I
So-
mean, I enjoy the routine. I mean, I usually edit on weekends, on like Sundays. But yeah.
But see, that's when I would be wrestling, so that was the tough part. So I'd be
When were your editing nights? What'd you?
as soon as I could get it done.
Okay.
There was a lot, and of course, like when I lived in Charlotte, like I can go up quite a bit, and then I also was running 3 monthly comedy shows at the same time that I was releasing.
That's a lot.
A weekly podcast, a bi-weekly podcast, on top of a wrestling schedule, on top of a job.
And then you had a day job. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's a lot.
yeah,
but,
it was very difficult. It was very difficult to manage all of that.
Yeah, I think we're on episode 73 was this morning, so we're plugging along. How many episodes ahead did you get? Like how many pre-recorded?
Oh, I tried as many as I could. But I don't think I was ever more than a month to 6 weeks ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I like to stick to. I think we have like 4 in the hopper right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I like a month was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But there was a lot of times where it was.
Yeah. If you get too far ahead, I feel like the conversations can even get dated. We live in a world now where like current events change, and to me as a listener, I'm kind of turned off if I hear something in the interview that's like, oh, that was obviously way before. I like to feel like it's kind of like I'm growing with the show, the podcast I listen to anyway. Like I like to feel like it's somewhat pretty current.
So you don't want to hear my fantasy football picks?
Yeah, dude, I would. Well,
not that I guess spoiler or surprise, I'm not fantasy football guy. So
yeah.
I am a card guy. I do appreciate that you have a trading card sitting on your desk over.
Oh yeah, that was a gift from a friend of mine from high school. I'm a big Brett Favre guy.
I wish you would have told me. I just sold on eBay a Brett Favre rookie.
Oh really?
I graded a 6.
It had the Falcons on there.
Yeah. It graded a 6, so it was graded. So it was trash. I think I sold it for $1.85.
Okay.
Especially now.
Yeah. Is there still a good market for trading cards? Like
for
NFL?
Brett Favre trading cards? No, not right now.
Well, right this second, he's being
right this second. I don't think there's a pull up from this.
Yeah. Have you heard the story about Brett Favre? He got in trouble for embezzling money from the state of Mississippi, or supposedly
was allegedly taking money away from disenfranchised community.
Was it a disabled fund or something?
No,
it
was lower income.
Lower income. And he wanted to use it to fund the volleyball program at his kid's high school?
At I believe his alma mater.
Or his alma mater?
His college alma mater.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know. Favre's, he's kind of dumb and he's got a lot of concussions. I think he's a good guy. I'll try to blindly. I love the Packers.
Sends a heck of a good dick pic, from what I hear.
Sends a good dick pic.
That's what I hear.
I don't even know if he knew how to use the phone, man. Maybe it was an accident. Brett Favre. You know how many concussions? That was before all the.
You're gonna have to talk to that. You're gonna have to talk to that Jets reporter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that.
No, I think
who apparently worked for AEW for a short period of time, and I didn't even realize that.
AEW, that's your company?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, it is my company.
Let's segue back.
My name is Tony Khan. This is my company, AEW. Not to be confused with All Elite. Yes.
So it's called, what is it?
All Elite Wrestling.
All Elite Wrestling.
Yes.
So you and I don't know a lot about like specifics with this, but
Great.
I see on
not
your,
doing
on
research
your social,
for a podcast.
Right.
Not only are you the host, but you're also the idiot on a podcast.
I am because the idiot asks a lot of questions.
I'm telling you, that is the dream job if you ever want it, to be the idiot on the podcast that doesn't do the research. And you are both.
Cheers. Yes. But because I don't know, I can ask, and also, I don't know anything about wrestling really. So this is like not what you see on WWE.
No, this is what you see.
It is. Okay. How did you get involved with wrestling, and what is your job today?
How long did it take? How long did it take to ask the stereotypical, how'd you get involved in wrestling?
Why not?
How did you get involved? Do you know how many podcasts I've done where that question's been asked?
No, I don't.
Once again, give me your hand. Give me your hand.
You want to give me?
Yeah, give me a hand. I'm going to walk you through this wonderful podcast.
All right. I haven't seen any of them.
Okay.
I haven't seen any of them.
I know. I'm sure my multitude of fans, which are obviously tuning in here right now, are rolling their eyes as well. I'll give you but luckily, I'm very good at telling the story in about 60 seconds or less.
Okay, cool.
Grew up a wrestling fan, love wrestling. One of my earliest memories in life was seeing Junkyard Dog walk to the ring. And when he walked to the ring with his entrance song, everybody stood up. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the entire world, that people were so excited to see this individual. They were going to get out of their chair just to get a glimpse of this human being going to do whatever he was going to do. And then I realized it was like fighting what I thought for a long time was Ted DiBiase. I had to do some research and cross-reference when this memory would have happened, and did some full research, and come to find out it was Saturday night's main event, Junkyard Dog versus Terry Funk. And if anybody's ever seen that match,
Terry Funk,
and anybody who's seen that match and seen
Junkyard
me wrestle,
Dog,
they
iconic
now
match.
it all connects now why I wrestle the way that I do and the matches that I want to have, because this is my first impression of what wrestling is and what I wanted wrestling to be and what I wanted to do. And all my life I loved wrestling. Attitude Era was very big.
Who's that?
The Attitude Era.
Attitude Era.
You don't know about that?
I don't know what that is.
I'm not going to take the time to explain it to you. Do some research on it. Anybody
Dude,
knows,
Jake, you're throwing your weight around on this show.
Listen, I lifted weights this morning. I'm very aggro right now.
So I'm learning something just by interviewing
the Attitude Era was,
you can't fuck around with these people.
You can't.
No, because if you do, he'll be like, well, you got to explain.
Attitude Era is a time during wrestling that a lot of people
90s?
90s. Late
okay.
90s.
That's what I was accustomed to as a kid.
Yes, very excited. Yeah, most people are. Most people are. But it turned a lot of people off. We lost the younger brother generation, as I like to call it, during the early aughts.
Why so?
Because
why?
wrestling was deemed very dirty, very
during
mature.
the Attitude Era it was dirty, or it was previous
mature. But that was the charm of it. There's a lot of people that had watched in the 80s, and you were becoming more mature. The content we were consuming at the time was becoming more mature, so we wanted our wrestling to reflect that.
Okay.
And it did.
Yeah.
So obviously I was very popular, very interested in that, and then I always thought, because of what I saw on WWE TV, the way that you become a pro wrestler is Jim Ross finds out you played college football, watches you do the bench press a couple times, couple arm drags, and all of a sudden you make your debut at Survivor Series 1996 like The Rock. And I thought that's how it happened. Yeah. But it turns out there's wrestling schools across the country. There's good ones. There's bad ones.
So there's like a feeder system.
A little bit, but there's no feeder system that's set up or structured. It's just like, hey, this guy's cool.
Yeah.
Let's sign him.
How much of it is like just raw strength and talent versus like charisma and like you're a character that could sell?
It depends.
It depends?
It all really depends.
Okay.
There's no right, wrong, correct. I mean, you look at somebody like John Cena, had everything. 5-tool player.
Yeah.
You look
5 tool. So what are the 5 tools you look for in a wrestler?
5 tool is a baseball term.
Baseball term.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know baseball. I don't know baseball either.
I don't know baseball either. You don't know baseball either.
Actually, I think I remember that line from Moneyball when they say they're trying to develop
5-tool player.
5 tools. That was what Billy Bean had.
Yes.
So I do remember that.
5-tool player. John Cena is that, and then you have someone like Rey Mysterio.
Okay.
Incredibly generational athletic. You have someone like Kenny Omega, who is a mixture of all that as well. But then you have someone like Danhausen, straight up character, unbelievable, tremendous following.
Okay.
And just someone like Junkyard Dog, nothing but charisma.
Yeah.
Then you have someone like Andre the Giant. It's a whole multitude of different things and characters and how it all works and fits. And sometimes it's just the right place at the right time.
Okay.
There's times where they're like when Jersey Shore was very popular.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
And there was a wrestler that was kind of doing a Jersey Shore type character.
Okay.
And he immediately got a job because of it.
Okay. So when these guys are trying to get jobs, is it translated like it has kind of with comedy or maybe any sort of entertainer where they look at your social media following that you're building and they say, well, look, you already are bringing something to the table. You're already, got eyeballs on you. That's the same exact kind of thing that's kind of affected wrestling.
It's like, this guy, if all these people right here think that this guy's great, well, if we bring him over here, now people will think we are great.
Right.
Which is kind of backwards the way wrestling always used to be. Wrestling used to be like the promoter was in charge. The promoter would find somebody that nobody knew about, and he would build him the way that he wanted him to then this is one of our stars.
Sure.
That's kind of the way WWE did it for a long period of time, and then they woke up about it and realized hey, instead of getting an ex football player or a washed out MMA guy and then teaching him how to wrestle and then hoping 3 years from now he gets it. And then
you get somebody who's already passionate and building it on their own.
Somebody who's traveling the world, perfecting their craft.
Yeah.
Taking $100 paydays and hoping they sell $300 worth of shirts so they could.
You want somebody doing it for the love of the game. I think so. I think that's what you want with any entertainer. If they love it, it's not because of the money, but they're just grinding in obscurity.
Yeah, you want those people. You don't want the people that have it handed to them.
Right.
And also too, like when there's a desperation to it,
Mm-hmm.
there's a desperation to, I have to figure this out. This is what I am. I am a wrestler. If I don't figure this out,
Yeah.
I don't make my rent.
Right.
I have to do this.
Right.
There's
the hunger factor.
Yeah. You just need it. Much like a comic in stage time. Much like you got to get up. Got to get up. I got to make it better. I got to make this bit better. I got to find more punchlines. I got to keep working on it. I got to keep getting on better shows. I got to keep emailing bookers. That translates into something, and a frenetic energy where you have to be successful as opposed to, well, I'll just get it when it comes, or I'll just figure it out, or I'll just take some time and then figure it out. Or you need that desperation a little bit.
And you got to be a little crazy anyway. It's wrestling.
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of got to be a crazy.
You have to be stupid, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I feel like the smart ones have the hardest time with it. If you're smart, you have the longest career, but if you're stupid, you can get successful.
You could blow up, dude.
Oh yeah, because if you're so stupid when it comes to like you see me, I don't think you would doubt that I'm an athletic individual, to an extent.
You got athletic tape on your elbow, bro.
Yeah,
that's a telltale sign of an athlete.
Yeah, an injured athlete. Is
I was going to ask what happened, but
athletic individual. I work out just about every day. So, and have been doing so for decades.
Yep.
There's no reason athletically why I can't cut a shooting star press or a flip on my feet. But the difference between me and a person that maybe does it or thinks they can do it or just walks off the street and does it is, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? Where's my hand going to be? Where's my head going to be? How do I do this? Do I turn to the left? How do I will.
You think about all that.
I'll think about how I'm going to do it, where I think a successful pro wrestler that does a lot of flips, they're like, hey, do a moonsault or flip or do a standing shooting star press. This is what it is. Okay. And then just does it.
Okay.
And then never thinks about.
Yeah.
They just go through and do it.
Yeah. I think I know exactly the personality type you're talking about. It's like the kid that you played with, just in the backyard or whatever in school who would just do anything. Like they'll just do it. Like they were the brave, stupid one. Like they would go on the jump with their bike over the, whatever.
And they always would survive.
And they always would survive because they'd be fine. They'd be loose. It's like, yeah.
Even if they wiped out, they were just too dumb to know the danger they were actually in.
They weren't phased. They were just the risk takers. I was always hedging a little bit. I would be, if I was trying to do it, I would be very calculated, I think, versus the. And
as an athlete, you're always trying to get to that flow state where you're not thinking.
Yeah.
With anything, and then any type of skill or anything you're trying to do, you're always trying to get to that flow state.
Flow state. I feel with stand up too. When you aren't thinking and you're
a little bit, or like
you're connecting in the moment.
Sometimes like
it's not physical as much as it is
trying out a new bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are no expectations, because you've not said this before. Sometimes that new bit energy, that new bit, like the first time you do it, it is better than any other time you do it.
I agree completely, dude.
Because
I wrestle with this a lot. I wrestle with this a lot.
And pro wrestle with it.
Because you're exactly right. The first time you say a bit, if you're committed to it and you're not overly fearful, it'll often do better than any other time because the emotion of it is so like authentic and from a real place.
Also,
it's hard to get to that place again.
Well, and also too, it feels more. It happens to be more conversational, and and something that really kind of was the thing that kind of turned my stand up to do a little bit. There's like two times in me doing stand up where I've got the most gains. One was breaking up with my girlfriend. My girlfriend of 6 years. Like, this was like several years ago.
That's a good one.
It was like 4 or 5 years ago, and like breaking up with her like made me need it more.
Sure.
And it fueled something.
And,
and always laughter and comedy was a thing that replaced like my awkward feelings. Like I'm the funniest person. I was the funniest person at my grandmother's funeral. Like, hands down. Like, because that's how I deal with bad feelings and emotions is humor.
Right.
So having all of that and dealing with all that, and then also too having to live with her for 4 months because she couldn't find another place.
Yeah.
Made me funnier.
Yeah.
But I wasn't funnier when we were during that 4 months where she was living with me because I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't even tell my friends about it. So I couldn't be truthful on stage because I was hiding something even from myself. And I even knew a comic that hadn't come out as gay yet, and they were terrible.
Right.
The second they came out, they got instantly funny.
Because they were hiding a part of themselves.
So
Dude,
they could never get to that point on stage. So like once I got past that and then got on stage, I immediately got funnier.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And
because you're freer. You're your authentic self up there.
And then there were jokes about her that I couldn't do anymore. And then the sense that I trashed these jokes and the jokes don't exist anymore, that I was like, great.
Because you're not together anymore, so they didn't apply.
It was a freeness to it. And putting some of those jokes past tense was even like a freeing thing and helping me get through it. And then another thing, to get back to our point that we were discussing before about the new bits, was I was listening to a podcast. It wasn't even like a podcast about comedy. It was just these comics talking about comedy.
Right.
It was like a crime and sports. They were talking about comedy, and like so the real trick is trying to get up on stage and make the audience feel like you're having a conversation with them for the very first time.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, I was like, oh, that's the difference. You can write great jokes. You can have everything down word for word perfect. But if it doesn't feel or come off like I'm having a conversation with you, like you and I are having a conversation right now, then it doesn't work.
Right.
It's not that the joke is bad or written wrong or the words aren't perfect.
Right.
It's because I have not created this illusion that you and I are talking to each other. So sometimes when I struggle, I have to take a step back and be like, am I making this feel like a conversation?
Right.
And then usually when I recalibrate and come back to it, I find out that's what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think got me on the staff.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. that authentic connection happens. And it's I agree with that completely. I mean, I've performed.
I blew your mind. That's why you're struggling.
No, well, I don't know what I have
to
add. I guess that's why I guess it can be hard at open mics. That might be a point there because you have mostly comedians. If they've heard material before, that's why open mics push you to try.
But then the trick with that
other things.
And I've started to learn that even here at Coffee Underground, and I think even last week it kind of like connected my mind. Like, then you should be more relaxed because I know these people.
Right.
And I could say it in a certain way differently, and sometimes that's where you might find a new tag.
Right.
A new thing that you didn't know and explore something because you're talking to Jeff,
right?
You're talking to Dave, you're talking to Adam, or Craig, or whoever.
Yeah. And you should branch out and how you say it or what you're saying.
And then make
they know you've heard it before.
And even make asides to it, like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, I thought this punch was going to do better, Jeff. I thought this punch was going to do better, but you got to do what you got to do, and you jump back into it, and then sometimes it might find you a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost feel like people are like, well, I was on the comics here, I can't do this, or they do the same stuff. I'm like, why did that suck? Because you said it the way you did if there were people here.
Yeah, you performed it as if there was a bunch of people.
But you can have more fun with it if it's just all comics. Then you could then you can still do it, but then mess with it a little bit more.
Yeah, I kind of admire comics though, because I've heard a few local that. Actually Melly, she was today's guest, but I've heard a lot her bits. Melly, she's she's here at Coffee, but she is very precise. Like I think her wording is identical, and she kind of polishes the bits she does. But I was watching her at a show last night, amongst others, and she basically, to me, is able to deliver it in an authentic way, identically every time, to where like her delivery feels conversational, even though I could predict everything.
And that's where you get good at it.
Yeah.
And I have some bits that, gosh, who was I? I was talking to somebody, and I just jumped right into this bit. No, I was on stage. Excuse me, sorry. Last week, I just somebody said something, and then I jumped into this bit.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was like, man, that was really polished. I go, well, I've said it for, he goes, did you just come up with that? I go, no, I've said it for 5 years.
And he couldn't tell. He thought it seemed as if it was your first time.
Yeah, because I hadn't performed it here in Greenville, because there's a lot of bits that the Charlotte comics are sick of hearing, but you guys haven't even heard yet.
For sure. I like to drive around for that same reason. I like to not go up to Asheville too many times in a row unless I have some new stuff that I'm pretty sure is going to work. And then when I know they haven't heard it, I'm able to be more confident and feeling conversational because, yeah. No, it's so funny, man. I'm glad you boiled it down so concretely because that's, you know.
I couldn't just go on stage and just be funny. Well, you know, just like I couldn't walk into a wrestling ring and do a standing shooting star press.
Mm-hmm.
I just sit around and think about it and
do you ever think about
boil it all down?
Because I had this thought the other day about trying to make it like more about the audience than myself. Like remembering that the whole point of this is to make them laugh because you want them to have a good time, not because their laughter means I'm better or validated in any way, but like the show was supposed to be good for them. Like I'm trying to connect with them and thinking less of us in a selfish mode than like, oh, you know.
No, but you got to be selfish because it's entertainment. But you do have. Then it goes back to something that I think Bernie Mac said years ago, and I don't think I really got that until probably the last couple of months.
What was Bernie Mac's quote?
He goes, "You got to get these motherfuckers to like you."
Yeah, 100%.
It's not 100%. It's not even about making them laugh. You got to get these motherfuckers to like you.
Yeah. That's 100%.
That's why when I see
if you're likable, that's a big part.
That's why when I see a lot of these open mic comics and they want to say the edgy thing, or basically do something you'd see on a shitty meme, like ooh, I'm gonna say this and shock you with this or shock you with a word where it's like you do realize you just turned off every woman in the room, or half the people think this way politically, or that just came off as mean. Yeah. And I just you do realize there's less people that like you right now. Sure. And the one guy that comes up to you and tells you that he likes you, he's an asshole. Yeah. And you don't want the one asshole in the room to like you. Yeah. You would prefer the majority. Yeah, for sure. Everybody around to like you.
Yeah, I think that's the temptation. Definitely for brand new comics, and I still like playfully edgy stuff, but
but somebody told me this a really great Charlotte comic, Shane Lane, boiled it down perfectly for me because Shane is a transgender man, and I had a lot of jokes.
I know Shane. I think I've
Shane's. One of my best friends, in comedy, and just what a joyful person. Yeah, and probably gave me one of the better pieces of advice I got from another comic of this level. Obviously, I could say Bernie Mac said this, and that's wonderful advice.
You need those gems, Bernie Mac's
or I heard Jerry Seinfeld tell this to Chris Rock, and of course, this is a wonderful piece of information. But this is probably the best information I got from somebody who is a peer, and I was having a hard time because I wanted to talk about topics that, this person, me mistakenly doing something wrong. Yeah. Or I want to talk about this of being I want to talk about certain topics that I feel as a white straight male, I'm not allowed to talk about. And Shane's you can, but you have to be the butt of the joke. You can make jokes about that are not in your, demographic or something you should be talking about. But if you do, you've always got to end up being the butt of the joke. I didn't get it. Yeah. Sorry. I'm stupid.
And this story went horribly for me because I had the wrong outlook or something.
I had the wrong perspective. Yeah. And it always has to come back around. Yeah.
It's just
every time I made jokes about those things, it always has to come back to that. And then everything seemed to get work more across the board.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it kind of comes back to that likability point. It's like, do you like, if you think about friends in your life, do you like friends that brag about themselves or their own point of view or their own political opinion? Or do you like friends that are kind of unassuming, modest, curious, talking about interesting things, talking about funny things?
But yeah,
I mean, I don't really like know-it-alls, you know? I don't like people
and there's a lot of like...
And
80s,
I am
90s
one too, 'cause
headliners
I like
that
to
will
talk.
be like, why can't I joke about this anymore in this particular way that I used to in the 90s?
Right.
Well, it's like, because you're not the butt of the joke. You're
Right.
making fun of a thing that's...
Right. And I don't know if this is going to be a really unpopular opinion about a comic, but this is like George Carlin. I haven't seen a lot of his stuff. You've seen it all, and you probably love him. He's brilliant, but like, it's not really my favorite because it feels like he's angry man, shaking fist at cloud, describing everything, and
there's a little more depth to it than that.
there is, but also like I like just silly jokes about dogs that are like really, you know, creatively constructed, and just like, wow, I enjoyed that versus telling me what's wrong with the world from his point
they
of
got to
view.
keep. You also got to put what he did into context where there weren't people
Sure.
doing that.
Sure.
And
He was the first
That's
to-
every comedian artist, you always got to put it into context.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
No,
Like,
I think that's
you don't never realize like how good somebody is. Like there's always a thing, Lenny Bruce. If you listen to any of his bits, they're not funny, but
I
recognizing
listened to some old Lenny Bruce. Yeah.
once you put it into context of what was going on and how
affecting
it was
him personally because she was affected by the Catholic Church and those free speech laws, right, at the time.
And just everything. It's just like the what he was trying to do and how he was trying to do it. It's just it didn't translate. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't translate to now, where it's like we've already go like even Bill Hicks doing bits about porn in the 80s.
Yeah.
Now we will hear at least 8 comics talk about porn on this open mic we're about ready to go to.
Right.
When he was doing it, the idea of porn was like not discussed, especially on a
Very
microphone
taboo.
with a lights and there's a video camera right in front. And you're going to talk about watching porn?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Oh, for sure.
So you have to put those things into context.
It's so funny how oblivious you can be because I can think of mistakes I made and still do, but more so when I was just starting about how edgy. I don't know if the temptation is to go edgy because you're so afraid of no response. Yeah, you want a reaction, and edginess will get a reaction, but you know, not the one you want. I mean, it is a bad feeling when you have people frowning at you.
Well, don't worry,
like looking away, and they're like, "Dude, they fucking hate me right now." Like I just made complete strangers. Not only did I fail at making them laugh, but they actually hate me now.
Some of them, some audiences deserve it though.
Well, yeah.
Some of them deserve it.
I think, yeah. I mean, some audiences aren't even participating. I mean, to me, a comedy show, there's participation by the audience. Like there should be some, you know, you're here to have a good time. I'm not here to like.
And usually
fold my arms and be like, all right, what's this motherfucker got? Like it's
usually you can redirect like gosh, the guy who was Overton Jones on Living Single, he headlines a lot at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte. I forget what his name is, but he played Overton on Living Single.
I'm sorry, I don't know this show.
I think John Hinton.
Okay.
Or Tim Hinton was his last name. I forget his last name, but he's done comedy for years. They would just bring him in the Comedy Zone because he always does well. He doesn't move tickets as much as the next flavor of the month, but he's a great comic.
Right.
Best shutdown of a heckler you could ever have.
What happened? How'd it go?
But this was a standard thing. He had to do it a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Because there would always be, because a lot of the people that sometimes they have to flyer the room for him. Because like I said, he's not, Living Single is is great for people like, oh, I used to watch Living Single, and they go out and see him. But then some people are like, I've heard of Living Single. Oh, I got free tickets.
Sure.
You know, so
a lot of people don't know him. So
they don't care.
So they don't care.
So
they're not going to give him a big benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, they're not, and they're just going to talk and whatever. So, but he's such a pro because I always hate it when somebody's in the room or heckling or doing something, or they won't shut the fuck up. There's always Friday shows or like late night shows when there's drinking or a club, and you get people where it's the room's been flyered and they just talk.
Right.
They're just being stupid. Now, you could stop the whole show and yell at those people, but now you've made it uncomfortable.
Right.
And now it's hard to get people to back into the interesting of laughing.
Right.
And you could sit there and goes, oh, is this your first beer? Or I don't come to your work and knock the dick out of your mouth. Those aggressive lines.
Sure.
But his line is just so perfect because it communicates to the person like, hey, don't talk. It's okay. Like, or don't jump in on punchlines, whatever. Like, basically the bit is just a little joke that he does. And I don't think he minds that I've taken this before, but it works.
Yeah, go ahead. What did he say?
Basically, like somebody was talking and he was like, hey, man, can you keep it down here? He goes, I appreciate the help. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being so vocal, but don't worry. Like, I got it covered. Matter of fact, I wrote some stuff down in case you weren't going to show up. So I got it. And he pull up his set list, and the person's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll quiet down.
Yeah.
And it's a joke. It's a bit.
But he's being kind to the person.
Being kind to the person. But he's directing the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And lets the person know, shut the fuck up. I got this.
Yeah.
It lets everybody know that daddy's home.
Yeah.
And we'll do what I say.
Yeah.
And one time I was in an unruly room where somebody kept saying, like trying to tag my jokes.
Yeah.
Which was throwing off my rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Hit him with that line. Not an issue the rest of the night. And if anything, was very thankful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I stopped him from he goes, oh, I didn't realize I was so rude. I apologize.
Yeah.
But then everybody in the room wasn't like, why did this guy just yell at this guy for no reason?
For sure. I had a response that I did recently that really worked, and it was by accident, but it worked, and I think I'll remember it. But I think I had asked just kind of rhetorically, and this will happen a lot because if you ask where people are from or like, are you from this area? And I just said that, and then people kind of clapped, and then I said, oh, I'm from Michigan, and then somebody yelled out, oh, I'm from Michigan. And then I paused and I said, okay, cool. Well, we can do the whole room if you want. And then everybody laughed and she quieted down. But I was kind of saying it sarcastically.
But you also opened yourself up to making this a dialogue and not a monologue. And
well, that line was meant to be taken as
that is why I will
as how ridiculous it would be if we asked every single person.
Yes.
That was implied in my meaning.
But you're like, hey, I'm from here, where you're from, or all that. You never want to leave yourself open to anybody saying anything. You always have to be careful of that too.
Well, yeah, for sure.
So I hate it when people ask the audience, I'm like, hey, are you, or like even go around and talking to people like too directly.
Yeah.
But then that goes back to you got to make it feel like a conversation.
Right. No, for sure. Because you want to make it so you get it feeling like a conversation, but you got to get it real quick, reeled back in if you do.
Line.
No, for sure. But yeah, being kind to because I feel like a lot of these people that talk aren't even aware of
what they're doing.
They're doing. They're not. I mean, even if they're not drunk, they might just not understand that's not something you do. And those could be great audience members too. Like once they quiet down, they're actually having fun and laughing.
Because they're obviously engaged in the show.
Right.
Because they're talking.
Yeah.
And you don't want to scold somebody, but you want to let them know that these are the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. How long have you been in comedy now? What year are you in?
7, 8 years.
7, 8 years. Do you like comedy more? Or you like wrestling more? What's your first love?
See now we're getting some good questions here, David. It
only took us 40 minutes.
Now we're getting to the good questions.
Mm-hmm.
That not a lot of people. So here's the thing, I'm not famous at wrestling. People know who I am. I'm good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I would even say fantastic at it.
Fantastic wrestler.
I'm more than a heck of a hand. I'm a very good wrestler. I know what I am doing. When I plot out my matches, I have a pretty good idea what is going to get what desired response at what particular time, and I'm usually 99% of the time correct.
Okay.
Usually not surprised a whole heck of a lot, and sometimes those surprise things are very organic and beautiful and wonderful, and I'm glad that they're happened.
Sure.
But I have been wrong a couple of times, but usually when I put something together, I know what I'm doing. And that is wonderful to me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that I know what to do with an audience, when, at what particular time, and what's going to work. And it sucks when it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, too, like when it doesn't, I can either correct the situation or we can get out of it and get to a situation that I do know.
Sure.
So that is wonderful and that is great. And that's a wonderful superpower. And I wish I had that type of control with comedy.
Right.
But I have been doing wrestling for probably three times more than I have been doing comedy. So I would love and hope that I would get to that level with comedy, and then that would be amazing as well too. So with comedy, it feels like there's a lot of struggle, and there are days where I don't feel like I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
And it's tougher and it's harder. And then also too, like, unfortunately, because of my weekly schedule, haven't been able to do it as much as I used to, because it used to be a lot of Monday through Thursday, Friday was comedy, and then the weekends of, Friday, Saturday, Sunday was wrestling.
Right.
Where now my job is taking off doing wrestling, and I don't get as many days doing comedy. So
yeah, it's tough because they're both nighttime activities, right? I mean,
yes. Well, and also I'm traveling. I'm on the road. Sometimes when I travel with AEW, I try and find an open mic to go do.
Right.
There's certain cities where that lucks out, but then sometimes I'm in charge of picking up coworkers at the airport, so I don't really have time to be sitting at an open mic waiting. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've been in a mic and it's terrible, and I just this isn't my scene. Bye.
Sure.
So I can just leave.
Sure.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It's lucked out a couple of times.
So you kind of answered like where you're at proficiency wise, or like how confident you feel in either one. Which one do you love more though?
Yeah, but this goes back to what I love playing easy mode on video games.
Yeah.
So obviously wrestling feels like easy mode to an extent.
Yeah.
Level of what I'm looking for out of it is an interaction with a crowd and an audience that do something very cool and magical and special. I feel like I've got that figured out with wrestling, where I don't have that with comedy. So therefore it's like, oh, I'd much rather wrestle because I can do this. But then I know that I need to keep plugging away at a comedy, so one day I can be as good as I am at wrestling, but with comedy.
For sure.
So like that's my hope is that, and I thoroughly enjoy comedy, and when it works it's great, but because I'm still very new, it doesn't always work that way. Even though I've been doing it for a certain amount of years, it's not like I was in New York for 4 of those years and did it
grinding
6,
your
7,
ass off.
8 days, 8 times a week.
Yeah.
But I do have, I feel a headlining set.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of wrestling material, so it has to be done in front of a wrestling crowd or somebody that knows I'm a wrestler.
Right.
Where if you are not interested in wrestling whatsoever and you came to see me do a headline set, you would be very disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you hated wrestling, then you would hate my stand-up.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of wrestling jokes because that is my experience and that is my life.
I enjoy jokes like that though. As I've already admitted, I'm completely a novice when it comes to wrestling, but like I actually like being brought into a world that I know nothing about. It's tricky because it's not immediately relatable to everybody in the room.
And that's the problem. Sometimes when I talk about certain things about it and they don't know about wrestling, it goes over their head, and I think that's where the jokes don't land. Where if you at least know about wrestling and you like wrestling, the jokes hit perfectly.
Right.
Like the very right on the top of it. Like the few times that I opened up for Mick Foley, like those were always the best sets I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to him, like the conversations we would have in the green room with each other were like conversations that one out of maybe there's like 5 people in the entire world.
Yeah.
There's like so few like wrestlers that are also comedians that could have a conversation we were talking about. So we were talking about like,
that's pretty niche. Yeah.
What are you noticing between audiences, and what do you like actual comedy clubs, and what's like a real joke, and like, hey, do you think I need to have like a wrestling tag here, or should I think about something that's a bit more transferable to everybody in the room?
Yeah.
And he's like, this show probably more wrestling. That's gonna go much further. Where your other show, you're probably gonna want to do this.
Yeah.
But if it's weird enough, like we're just like talking about these very niche conversations, but these very niche things that only a wrestler slash comedian is going to have on how you craft your art and what you do.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what I've had to learn with all of that. So like I'd like to get to the point that, because the hustle's all the same.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's you got to have a social media following for anybody to want to put you on anything that's worth anything. you have to be friends and buddies with this person so you can
Yeah.
get this. You have to
Who
be the
you
right
know?
place, right time. You have to have a certain look. You have to have this.
Yeah.
You have to do this. You have to do all
Dude,
these other
there's
things.
a ton of similarities to wrestling and comedy. It's crazy. Like I even attribute like, okay, you wrestlers stay in shape. Like you build your bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to weightlift every week, minimum 4 times a week, probably, to stay in good shape. It's the same exact thing with open mics. I feel like weightlifting with that. If I take time off, I'm going to be really
Not as
struggling.
sharp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Even a week. That's all I've really ever taken off since I've started, like for, family vacations or whatever.
Keep those feet
And-
taped to the bicycle.
Yeah.
It's-
I think it's healthy sometimes if you feel like you're getting a little burned out to take a little time off, but never, you'll just lose your muscle. You'll lose your, you'll have some memory of it coming back, but yeah. So the matches, how long is a typical wrestling match?
Oh, mine is always like 2 minutes under what it's scheduled to be.
Because you KO the guy?
No, just because usually every indie show is always running long.
Okay.
So they always give me so sometimes it's time for like, hey, can you do 10 to 12 minutes? You're on 6th.
Okay.
Well, by the time 4 runs around, somebody's already gone 10 minutes over.
Yeah.
So when I go out through there and do 8 to 10, they're like, "Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like you didn't run long." I go, "Yeah, I went under because
Yeah.
I knew I'd have to because I knew this guy doesn't care about your
Right.
show. He only cares about doing all his moves,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care about this entire show and everybody in the back half."
So every segment or fight is like, what, 15 minutes?
So sometimes it depends. Sometimes it's 4 minutes. Depends on if it's TV. Like I've had TV matches that have lasted 30 seconds.
Okay.
Like I've had TV matches that go 4 minutes, 8 minutes, curtain to curtain.
Yeah.
And then there's other times I've wrestled for 25 minutes.
That's insane.
Sometimes 35. I've wrestled
25 minutes to me.
I've
is insane.
wrestled 2-hour Broadways. One was fabricated. One was a legit hour Broadway. Hour draw.
Yeah.
With Steve Carino.
Okay.
Wrestled him for an entire hour in front of 17 people.
Wow. Wow. That is how tired were you after that?
It's not so much tired. It's a big mental thing because an hour is a very long time.
Right.
So you have to, what you're doing in that match, has to be captivating.
Yeah.
So it has to be interesting. So you go out there and you start wrestling. I'm like, we're going to do an hour. And you get there and we're going to do this. And we'll take your time. We're going to do this. And we're going to work this over and just slow roast this.
Is it like a
thing.
dance?
A little bit, especially in something like that. And you're doing this and you're going through. I'm like, all right, we're really doing good. Really, we're about ready to kick it up. Do this. Okay, kick it up. All right. Well, how many minutes is that? 25.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, man, I really should have thought about more stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we gotta think on the fly of what we're gonna do for the next 45 minutes and keep it interesting.
Yeah. That's a scary feeling, I'm sure.
There was definitely some in that legit hour. There was some repeating. The other one wasn't a legit hour. It was a tag team match, and the guys I was wrestling, they're very good spot guys and tag spot guys, and we had some stuff, but we could never. We couldn't work on the little stuff where I feel like if we would have worked on the little stuff, we could have done an hour easy.
Sure.
But they were a lot of big spots and they struggled a little bit on some of that. And I feel like we could have we ended up doing 57 minutes or something like that. But the thing is they still acted like it was 60 minutes because we didn't think that anybody was going to watch the time.
Right.
So.
Right.
Of course, everybody now could see the runtime on a video file now and know if you're in an hour.
Well, that's an insane amount of time.
It is. It's way too long for any wrestling matches to ever happen. I think
typically you're in the 10 to 15 to 20 range max.
12, 15, curtain to curtain.
Yeah.
At an indie show is great. TV matches, 8 to 10, curtain to curtain is not bad. But a lot of TV matches end up being 4 minutes.
Yeah. Because if you're doing explosive physical moves, I think about in terms of the world I understand, which is football. Did you play college football?
I was a track athlete.
Track athlete. Okay.
Shot putter, hammer thrower,
Shot
distance
putter.
thrower.
Okay. Yeah. Also short, explosive movements. But you think about football. I mean, we had this award we would do. It's just these like motivational, silly stuff for the players, and it was 6-second competitor, 6-second something. And it was because the average play lasted 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the course of a football game. You go to a football game, it's like an hour on the clock in terms of all 4 quarters. But there's so much time standing around. The plays are really isolated in these 6-second explosive increments, and you are just dead after like a 10-play drive. If you play defense, which is what I played, it's so condensed into those plays. You could not just play like a soccer game where you're running. It's more cardio, aerobic exercise, or like basketball is more aerobic. Although basketball does have explosive stuff too, but yeah, that doesn't surprise that it is short windows. I mean, the actual amount of playing time in an NFL game is not that much.
But there's also pacing. I would challenge you to say that pro wrestling is a lot more like soccer or basketball.
Is it?
Because
Okay.
there is a sense of like constant, and now you have to explode, constant,
I
and then
got
you have
you.
to explode. And
I
then
got you.
it is-
Yeah, it's probably like basketball.
It's a lot more like basketball, and you have to know how to pace it.
Yeah.
I make a point to be I'm gonna say impeccable shape.
Mm-hmm.
In that, if I wrestle somebody, I'm not gonna be in the back going and exhausted. And I see a lot of young guys,
Mm-hmm.
and I've wrestled a lot of young guys. As soon as I get to the back, they're like falling down, and they need to sit down, and they need to breathe. And it's like, dude, like,
Yeah. What kind of cardio do you do to prepare yourself for that? Do they have the stamina and the pacing?
I have a weird workout regimen where it involves a lot of like high rep weight stuff.
Okay.
I'm very old and brittle.
Mhm.
I was a collegiate track athlete, and I was worried about what my bench press is.
Yeah.
Squats, power cleans. I cared a lot about that.
Dude, me too. 100%. What was your
But here's the thing. I don't give a fuck right now. I don't.
Well, since you don't care, what was your max on those 3 lifts? Bench?
Oh god.
I'm sure you beat me on bench.
Oh no, see here's the thing. I had nerve damage in high school. So my high school bench
Mm-hmm.
was not as much as my bench in college post like stinger spinal injury.
Yeah. What was your college bench?
I think I did legit 285.
Okay.
But I did 305 when I was in high school.
Oh, so your high school was better than your college?
Because
after
there was pre nerve damage.
Okay.
I got a stinger high school year of football.
Oh, dude, I got tons of stingers, bro.
And I lost a lot of feeling in my arms. It was so bad that I couldn't hold my arm up to turn the dial on the radio station.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what a stinger is, it's when you have a collision and your neck tweaks a certain way.
It snaps or
It could
compacted.
Back this way,
Yeah,
or
mine
I would
was
always
back.
have it back
Mine
to
was
the
back.
side.
Yeah.
And in football, when you tackle, you're supposed to keep your face mask up, but that can kind of kink your neck, and it'll send pain down your arm typically.
And
they
of course,
recur. If you have it happen once, you're very likely to have it happen again.
Yeah, I had 6 or 8 times.
Yeah.
Senior year, and I was a mess.
Mhm.
I was a mess. And
There's stuff you can wear to prevent it, like these shoulder
Collars.
spiders, they call them. They would go under your shoulder pads. But yeah, stingers are brutal, man. So that affected. What was your best power clean?
oh gosh, it was upper 300s, north of 350.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pretty strong.
Yeah, you beat me on that.
I think my jerk was 275.
Okay. I could jerk 275.
Clean. I think clean and jerk. Yeah, I think I jerked 285, but from a full.
Just to clean though,
it was that one where you you spread, you clean it and then you go straight to the top of your head.
Oh,
And you snatch.
Yeah.
I think I snatched just over 200.
There's a lot of sexual terms in there.
is.
Snatch,
Yeah,
jerk,
I snatched
clean.
to something.
Yeah. I think my bench was 330, and then I get to say mine. I think my clean was also 330. I did not push 400 like your power clean. That's an impressive.
It was definitely
power
north
clean.
of 350.
That's explosive, man. They say the power clean is pure explosiveness.
I was doing.
It's not even so much how big or how much muscle you have.
It's because you get underneath of it.
Yep.
Can you create enough speed from the ground to then get underneath it?
Yeah, our best wide receiver in college, he played in the NFL for a while, but he was like probably 6'5" and like very thin. He looked like a deer. He was just so skinny, but he could clean like 375 because he was so explosive.
Get underneath of it.
Yep.
That's all you're doing. You're just moving it enough to get underneath of it.
And boy, he was fast.
And boy, does that help with my new job where I'm carrying boxes of T-shirts and I need to chuck them up someplace.
Let's talk about your new job. What's the new job?
The new job is working for All Elite Wrestling.
So that was what you described. All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of merch. You got to look around.
I got to lug that around. I got to toss it up in places and pick it up and then climb into a truck. And
I hate that shit.
I think that's why I've got an issue with my elbow right now. Like from like pulling myself in from the ground up.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't like physical labor anymore. It's fun talking about those old lifts and stuff because like glory days kind of stuff. But also like you said, I do not care at all
I don't care
about maxes.
But everything is I'm more worried about doing 100 reps of something.
Yeah. That's probably so based on like what you know about fitness and everything. That's also a better way to.
I'm putting more. My thought process is I'm putting more. When you get really blown up, which is like you're, and wrestling is a total body thing, and when you are like, that is you trying to put oxygen into your muscles.
Yeah,
that is what you were trying to do because you overexerted them.
Right.
So, you if you're doing more, reps of ones and twos, you're going to get more of that gain, but you're going to blow up like that.
Right.
So those big, beefy, muscular guys, they blow up the fastest.
Right.
Because they need so much oxygen to go into those muscles. So a more lean guy is going to kind of do okay, but then he also has a lot of muscle that needs oxygen as well, too.
Right.
The real trick is if you build that with doing high reps, weightlifting has now become more of an aerobic activity.
Sure.
Which wrestling is an aerobic activity that involves you, but it's not like aerobic in what we think of like riding a bike or running.
Right.
That's why just running and riding a bike doesn't make you ring ready.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the motion of I'm moving so fast or I'm moving in a direction. It's I'm picking somebody up and I'm exerting the muscles.
So you need that weight resistance just at a higher rep. Probably.
I'm lifting somebody. I'm moving somebody. I'm doing this physically with my arms, but my feet are staying in one position. That's why just running doesn't give you what you need aerobically. You need to be able to do that with your body.
Right.
So that's why the weightlifting with the high reps preps me for the actual action of wrestling. And when I do take breaks, or if it's been like, oh my gosh, it's been 6 weeks since I've last wrestled, as long as I've continued to worry about my high reps of working out, I tend to not blow up quite as quickly. Now, obviously, ring shape is the only way to be in ring shape is to be in the ring.
For sure.
And sometimes I do wrestling at these comic book conventions.
Yeah, nice.
I dress up as Deadpool. And I have a mask on, so that makes it even tougher. So if I ever do a fantasy cosplay weekend, we usually have 4 to 5 shows in a weekend.
Yeah,
like the entire time during the con. So then I'm having these short little matches with a mask over me, so it makes it tougher to breathe.
Yeah.
So usually by the time that weekend's over, I'm in amazing in-ring shape.
Do you ever rock the Bane mask? Not the literal Bane mask.
Oh,
but
the
ones that, restrict
that's not
breathing.
my thing.
I don't even know if that's like a legit device or if that's kind of gimmicky.
So I think it was kind of gimmicky. A friend of mine who thinks more about working out than I do, used them for a short period of time, was like, yeah, this is just bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh man, the conditioning thing is funny though. That's similar, like ring shape. You said, I felt like that with football for sure. Like we had camp and stuff, and like no matter how much you thought you conditioned yourself, when it came to game day, you'd still have dudes and those fields are so hot. You have the rubber artificial turf. It's just tires, cut up tires, and it would just destroy. I mean, you'd have guys cramping in the second quarter, and yeah, there's nothing like the live competition. Same with wrestling.
That's important,
Yeah.
So Much like when I hear these people like, "Oh, I practice my set in front of a mirror." I'm like,
That's
not the same thing, man.
Yeah, it's like stand up. You got to do the stage time.
You gotta just it's got to be in front of people.
Yeah, I almost feel like the more you plan stand up, the worse it can go. If you're so like, I gotta say this exactly.
And that's where I'm at. Sometimes I overthink it. Like I feel like if I do less planning on a set, like I feel like I would do better. But at the same time too, I won't feel comfortable enough. But sometimes maybe feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll say that. I'll be like, fuck, I should have prepared.
I don't know. Like,
yeah, dude. I think that's why. Like you said, I always feel like I don't know where I stand with stand up. It's so uncertain.
How long have you been doing it?
A little over 2 years.
You don't have to think about it.
Yeah. That's what I tell them. But still, you kind of want.
I would ask some serious questions 5 years in.
What's that?
I would ask serious questions 5 years in.
At 5 years in, about where you are and
especially around here. And the most important thing is to get as much stage time as possible for those first 3 years, and then after 5 years, you got to ask yourself, like, all right, what am I doing here? Do I have a feature set? Do I have a 10-minute set about this that can be performed in front of a clean audience? Do I have the ability to do this? Yes.
Yeah.
Can I put this together?
I think that's great. So like at 5 years, you're starting to you have enough baseline tools and hopefully seeds of material to start constructing things for something. And then all of a sudden now you can take it much more seriously. And I feel like you got to do that. Yeah.
And one of the things that I've realized a lot with like pro wrestling, it almost isn't as fun as it used to be.
Really?
Like
why not?
It does feel like a job.
Okay.
For me now.
Yeah.
Because I have treated it like a job for so long because I wanted it to be my job.
Right.
A wrestler.
And then all of a sudden it's your job. And it's not fun.
AEW
as fun.
I don't wrestle for I do wrestle for AEW every once in a while, but that's like a little extra thing. But my job is not that I'm a wrestler for AEW. I work in their merch department.
Yeah, for sure.
For AEW. So my job is that I work in the merch department for all of the
Okay, so it's wrestling adjacent is the technical
yes,
job
but also too there have been times where like, Jake, do you have your gear with you? Yes, and they go put me in the ring.
Sure.
So and then sometimes like they do these small shows in Orlando where we don't sell merch, and I'm like, hey, can I do one of those? And like, yes, absolutely.
Right.
So I do wrestle for them. So that would, but my title is not wrestler for AEW.
Right.
But I still, for whatever reason, still treat it as if it is my job, and also the money that I make on the weekends is very good.
Yeah.
I'm at a position now, and I know what to do with my merch and how to do it. I do some very creative things. Like I just ordered some new T-shirts, and it's a design that most people haven't seen. So I know the next time that I go to my regular haunts where they're like, oh, I've seen that shirt before. They're like, oh, here's the new shirt.
Yeah.
And then also here's some other new stuff. Here's some new pictures. Here's some new little knick-knacky things, and present those out to people. So that way I can, make just as much, if not twice as much in merch than what I do for my actual booking fee.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, I do it. I treat it like a job.
Yeah.
Like, hey, when I go back to these, I have to make sure I have new merch. When I go back to here, I have to do this. I have to make sure that the hotel's booked. I have to make sure my flights, like all these things, I treat it as a job. And then it's like going through. I was like, this just feels like fucking work.
Yeah.
And then it just doesn't feel fun.
For sure.
Like I'm going on a little venture and I'm playing wrestler.
Yeah.
But because I've wanted it to be a job, it's now kind of a job for me. It's not. It's more like a very low paying part-time job.
Right.
But I still view it as a job in my mind. And when I think about quitting, I'm like, do I not want to make that extra money that I can spend on trading cards? Like now all of a sudden that trading card money
always comes back to the money.
It does. So there's a part of me that kind of keeps me hanging on because I know I make good money with it and I know what I'm doing with it. So now I'm trying to do other things that have other avenues that makes me other money that doesn't beat up my body because I will be still in August of next year will be 20 years.
Okay.
That's a very long time
for
a guy who has as little TV time as I do.
Yeah.
So I have to start thinking about how much longer I want to do this.
Sure. Yeah.
And the fact that I've gotten out with only a torn ACL, which is still not repaired.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, what happens if you don't fix an ACL repair?
you're fine. If you like,
Yeah.
I
just know the way that your knee can't.
I can't jump off the top rope and land on my feet. Going down slopes, carrying heavy stuff, can't do that.
Right.
Going up, I'm okay. It backwards and lateral.
I thought you had to get it fixed to.
No.
I mean, if you're doing what you're doing, I would think you would have to.
If you're getting anything out of this thing, just know, never let anybody cut your knees. Don't have a surgeon do it. See if you can get by without it, because once they cut into your knees, a surgeon cuts into your knees once, they'll go back in for the rest of your life. My previous boss,
my company sells stuff for this.
my previous boss had 8 knee surgeries in 3 years.
And you have a bunch of knee scopes, and then
he just scopes,
arthroscopies,
all kinds of stuff
ACL
on the shelf, ACL, like all kinds of stuff. Like once you do it once, they go back in there as many times. I tore my ACL in the middle of a match, and I couldn't even finish it really.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was like a 6-man tag, so I let the other guys do some work, and I just balled up in a corner.
Right.
But it was a torn ACL. They said it was going to need surgery, and it was going to cost $3,000, which at the time in my life, that was all the money in the world.
Yeah.
And then also too, it was going to be 8 months off, and where I was at in my wrestling career, I was like, nobody's going to remember me when I come back in 8 months.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is the end of my career, and I will go fix this.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just an ACL tear; it was a bone bruise and meniscus damage.
Yep.
Which those things heal.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of walk a little bit, but it was kind of an issue. I found a brace that was okay. And so I was like, well, I've only got 2 or 3 more bookings. I really need this money, especially if I need to get $3,000 together.
So you just brace it up?
Braced it up.
Yep.
Gutted my way through 2 of them. And the third one that I did, I was like, okay, well, that wasn't too bad because the meniscus and the bone bruise were healing.
Right.
So I'm like,
it was just structurally, it was missing that piece.
Yeah. So I go into like my gym, and like the gym, like I was like, hey, I got a torn ACL, and like, you've been working out with torn ACL. I'm like, yeah, I gotta look good for these wrestling bookings. And like, is there anything I can do to kind of get through it? And they're like, well, if you structure the muscles around it, like you gotta take care of your calves, like that kind of supports it too, and just kind of do a lot of like leg extensions and not do heavy weights. You might be able to get by for a few months. And I was like, okay. Well, I started doing that, started feeling real good, and then real normal. And then there's this move that I do, which is I get a guy and bust him over my knee and then put him into like a face buster thing. And I dropped down on my bad knee. And my friend who made the brace for me. Yeah. Because that's what my old company used to do, is make knee braces. He made the brace for me, specifically for me, and measured it for me. He's like, tonight you're going to do the backbreaker face thing. And I go, but I'll land on my bad knee. He goes, I don't care.
You got to do it.
And you got to do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he goes, no, you're going to do it. And if it pops or does something, I'll just pin you. Yeah. It doesn't make a difference in front of these people tonight. So I went out there and I did it, and it's one of my cooler moves. So it was one of those things like, I can't really do one of my cooler moves anymore. Yeah. So when I went out there and did it and it was fine, I was like, okay, well, I can still do one of my cooler moves. Yeah. Once I keep going, and then all of a sudden keep going, and all of a sudden I've been doing it for a year. For sure. Every once in a while something will happen, and I'll tweak it a certain way, and I'll be, okay, well, you got to calm down a little bit. Yeah. You got to. Yeah. But I always have to make sure that I stretch really well before I wrestle. I have to make sure that I work out every day. I'm taking care of that, keeping an eye on it, making sure that I'm walking evenly. I do have a lot of issues like with my right side now being a little lopsided, but I have to keep
lopsided.
I have to keep an eye on my Achilles a little bit. Okay. My right side, but that's where like because
you're straining your Achilles.
I've had a lot of sports like massage and chiropractic. Actually, the chiropractor was the person that did, put the elbow on me thing today. So I started doing that. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden I just woke up one day. I'm like, I've been wrestling on a torn ACL for 2 years. Right. So what's the point of fixing it now? Yeah. And any moment in time, I never felt like if I left that anybody would remember me after 8 months. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of a sad thing. And then also be in a situation, $3,000 to fix your knee.
Right.
So like, that was a very dire situation. It was desperation.
Yeah.
That was the thing that got me through it. And now it's to a point like I could I might be prone for something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't do a lot of running. Like I could land a certain way and then my leg is really messed up.
Yeah.
But
I think that's really good advice for people. 'Cause I've had one surgery in my life. And I was glad I did it. But like in general, because I work with surgeons in my job and stuff, and surgeons are great. I mean, they know their stuff,
but they're also fighter pilots where they want to get into the fastest, quickest plane possible. Surgeons want to cut you open.
Well, their job is to do surgery, so that's going to be what they
want to do.
What they think,
and that was the other thing too.
You're not supposed to recommend. But like you should get multiple opinions, and you should, definitely ask around. Definitely get a second opinion, because a lot of times, no surgery is better, but sometimes it's not. I mean,
the surgeon I had
depends.
was salivating at the idea. His mouth was salivating when he was talking about surgery.
Yeah.
That was another thing that kind of really turned me off too. Is like, we can cut you open and we'll cut you right here. Like he got too excited to cut open my knee.
Well, Well, the other thing to consider is surgeons are just like any other profession. There's good ones, there's mediocre ones, and there's ones that barely, and patients. There's a lot of asymmetric information. Their patients don't always have the benefit of knowing who to call. Like if you live in a small town, you might go to the only guy there, and that's who you go to because, that's the guy. And so good to be mindful of that. And I don't mean to say surgeons are bad. Like
I do.
Most of them
put me down, surgeon. All of you surgeons, you just want to cut us all open because that's you don't even care about the money. You would do it for $40. The idea of taking a scalpel to our skin excites you. I don't care. I don't care if you work for. I don't care if you work for him. I don't care if you come find David Bakker at his very nice apartment and make sure he doesn't drink this fancy water anymore. I don't care.
This is tap
surgeons.
Water.
All of
Put
you.
My company's
all of you surgeons are bad. Every one of you just want to cut us open and don't care about us. You don't. Not a single one of you.
Yeah. Do your homework is my message. But
they would do it all for $40. That's how deprived they are. They're more deprived than comics looking for stage time and pro wrestlers for bookings.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So we actually
my knee and a very minimal CTE.
Okay.
So, minimal
CTE.
I have noticed a couple things that are not great.
Yeah.
So that is probably taking care of my brain and maybe.
But only a couple. That's pretty. That's good.
I think it was stand-up that made me realize that I was having brain issues.
How? And we might have to go here, by the way. It's 6:20. We're gonna make this mic. We gotta.
Okay.
But tell me that real quick.
So
how did stand-up realize you had CTE issues?
I had issues. So I was wrestling. So obviously I record all my sets. And I, record every one of them. And I was working on this one bit, and I felt like I nailed it on a Thursday, and then it came back Monday, and it didn't hit.
Yeah.
And I had wrestled several matches over the weekend, and some very hard-hitting ones, like full-on, open hands, slapping each other across the head and face, a lot of head blows, a lot of head bumps.
Got your bell rung, okay.
And I go, what was so wrong about Monday? And I listened to it from Thursday, and I go, okay, well, how was it different on Monday? And then when I listened to it on Monday, I was slurring my speech. My words were off rhythm. And I go, oh, that's from this weekend.
Yeah.
I have multiple mini concussions.
Yeah.
And that is what's caused this.
Wow. Well, it's good to watch out for.
Yeah. So
it's good you had an acute incident versus oh shit, I'm always like that. Like there's but
every time I land on that mat, it's just a mini car crash. Over and over. It's Chinese water torture.
Yeah.
MMA is like hitting somebody with a sledgehammer. Pro wrestling is like Chinese water torture.
Yeah, that kind of feels like they say on football. It's the lineman collisions that are like minor, but there's so many more of them every play. Ding, 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 versus even the big hits. But Anyway, we got to get to this mic, dude. This flew by, but
Okay.
dude, thanks so much for coming, bro.
No,
And
thank you.
Shout out anything before we go. I'll link everything. But
Yes,
this saves-
all of my social media at Man Scout Manning, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitch, whether it is IG, Twitter, everything, just Man Scout Manning. That's it. Alliteration is important to me.
Yeah,
So.
and there's Boy Scout stuff associated with that too, right? We don't have time.
We don't have time.
We don't have time.
We
But
don't
I
have-
learned a lot today, even though I didn't come in with a lot of background. But thanks so much for doing it, man. Check Jake out, Asheville, as well as here.
Yes.
We're
anywhere.
at Charlotte.
AEW.
AEW.
Check out AEW. Support them, please. Support
Yep.
them. So,
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for coming on, man.
all right. There you go.